Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Farmington Board of Education meeting for Monday, May 6, 2019. If we can please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Next item on the agenda, approval of minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the April 2, 2019 regular Board of Education meeting?
Motion.
Next item on the agenda, 5, consideration of the superintendent's report. 5A, art department presentation.
So we have several presentations that relate to our programming here in Farmington this evening, and so it was made mention of Teacher Appreciation Week, and this is Teacher Appreciation Week, and we really thank all of our faculty for all they do for our students. We're very fortunate in Farmington to have highly dedicated and committed faculty and staff, really, who put our students at the center of all of their work, and we really appreciate and thank them. I will also mention that this is just generally a time of year of appreciation. April 3rd was Paraprofessionals Day. May 12th was today is Nurses Day. Tomorrow, Teacher Appreciation Day, but this is Teacher Appreciation Week. In October, it's a little off cycle, but that's Custodians Day, and April 24th was Secretary's Day, May 1st, School Principals Day, and May 15th through 19th, National Police Week. So all of these individuals make up our school district. We really appreciate all their efforts, and so I just wanted to make mention of that before I invited Julie Sawyer and Andrew Miner to come up to the table this evening. They're going to provide an update of our stellar our art department. And as all of you know, Julie is retiring this year, and so it's a bittersweet time for us. We are sad to see Julie go, but just so happy that she gets to start this new chapter of her life. She has dedicated so many years to the Farmington schools. She's a Teacher of the Year for Farmington, represented us well at the state level, and we just have an amazing art department here in Farmington, all working together and igniting passion for art in our students. And so I asked Julie, I don't know if you want Andrew to come with you or Julie comes up, and she's going to just talk about 3 areas of the art department's theory of action. Very much aligns to our district theory of action. And I think this is just a nice time to have you come and celebrate your leadership and your work and your collaboration with so many wonderful art teachers.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your kind comments, and I just feel overwhelmed. That's really, really sweet. Thank you so much for saying all of that. I wanted to not only take the opportunity to show a little bit about the work that our students have been doing this year together with Andrew Miner, but I also wanted to take the opportunity to introduce him to you. I'm passing the baton to him, and I couldn't be more proud. Andrew has been an extraordinary colleague for the last 11 years. He's the creative genius behind the stage sets. He has a wonderful mentor program for students with internships. He's been bringing in grant money, and he's just doing so much work behind the scenes. He's going to be the perfect person to take over and take the art department to a new level. So I'm very proud that Andrew's going to be doing that. He was our graduation speaker a couple of years ago, and last year he earned his Juris Doctorate, so we're very proud of him, and again, couldn't think of anyone better to take the position. So together we want to show a video. It's very short, that Evan Foreman helped us put together, and it goes over 3 of the aspects of the theory of action. We're going to talk about student choice. The video is going to show student choice, socially constructed learning, thank you, Ed, and real-world opportunities. Okay, thank you.
If you have a growth mindset, you can think, okay, maybe I can do this, because the sports drawings I did when I was younger, maybe they actually had a reflection of what I was going to do when I was older. And also, I think one thing that's really important is to have persistence. So like, well, when you're doing an art project, you might think, this is like not that good, but you would have persistence and you would add like maybe some like shaded areas and some glitter glue and some texture to it, and then it looks better.
My work connects me to the world around me because I create an image of myself looking to the stars in the background. Space is a part of me and our future, and my work represents how we can discover more as we look to our future, and I want to be a part of that.
I think this piece really shows my voice because I noticed that not all things have to be sunflowers and rainbows. They could, have giant stems coming out of them and be on boxes, and I think that it really just shows who I am as a person because I don't think that all the stereotypical beauty things are beautiful. I think that things that you make are beautiful.
When I first started at this school, I didn't really do much in art other than concert band, and as that went on, I realized that wasn't really where my interests lie. So last year and this year, I've taken Studio One and film photo and digital photo, and I really realized that they relate more to the interests that I had, and as I'm moving forward to college and picking a career, I'm really finding out what it is that I care about and I'm interested in and becoming better at them before I even get to college or get to a career. And I think that's really what this art department has let me do. Arts-related businesses employ over 3.5 million people nationwide. And in Connecticut, over 10,000 arts-related businesses employ 40,000 people. In the Hartford County, over 8,700 people are employed in the arts. And in District 5, nearly 2,000 creative industries employ over 6,000 people. I was amazed by these statistics because it's always been said that art isn't a viable career, but it really is. And I'm really hoping to get into film production or TV production or something that takes the skills I've learned at FHS and brings them to new levels. And hopefully, years from now, I'll be some cool film creator and I'll be able to look back at FHS and say, they got me here.
Our sculpture was inspired by the work of artist Nick Cave, who creates wearable sculptures from various materials which hide his identity. His masks and suits create a shield that protect him from judgment based upon the color of his skin. They let the viewer appreciate the details, movement, and sound of the sculptures. Our design is based on the media and the big part it plays in influencing how we feel about ourselves. So the bag that we made serves as a mask and how people can feel ashamed and try to cover themselves up. And after we got critiques from our peers, it really influenced our idea as it developed. Our message was originally about something more robotic, but this went against the idea of something human. So this piece is about being happy with who you are, which is represented by the tears in the bag that reveal the sparkle and inner beauty.
Art can be instrumental in shaping the tone and nature of intercultural relations. On one hand, it provides a medium through which cultural heritage and identity can be experienced and interpreted. On the other hand, it creates a unique space and environment in which artists and audiences can come together.
So this year, one of the electives I took was core, and I'm really happy to say that I'm glad I took this class, and I think I learned a lot from it. So first, I got better with working with my hands, and I took this class, one of the reasons I took this class was just that, to get better at working with my hands. And so, I'm looking around the shop right now. There's a whole bunch of tools that I learned how to use, so stuff like just all kinds of drills, saws, sanders, more advanced stuff like welding, plasma cutting, using an oxyacetylene torch. That was really cool. But also, honestly, stuff like wrenches and pliers, I didn't learn how to use those, but I definitely got more comfortable with them. So overall, that was really cool, just learning how to work with my hands and learning how to use all these tools. But also, it's not just the physical stuff. Stuff like creative thinking I got better at. So when you're designing all these projects that we have to do, for example, like we had to build bridges, egg cars, we had to build catapults. That was really cool. But when you're building these things, you need to think creatively in order to get a good design. And then the next part of that would be problem solving. I also learned how to get better at that because when you're building, not everything goes perfectly the first time, so you have to figure out and sometimes improvise how to fix your issues, and that was an important skill that I learned. And also being able to reflect on your own work. So whether your design did well or did poorly, you have to be able to evaluate just exactly what you did and how you can get better next time. So all of these skills are practical to the real world, and you can definitely use them in any part of life, not just engineering. And I guess a personal connection I have would be my dad. He always likes to fix stuff around the house, and he likes to fix things himself. So if he doesn't know how to fix something, he figures it out. So a lot of times he'll be like tinkering somewhere around the house, and usually I would just be off to the side or maybe help him like pass out tools or something. But now with what I've learned from core, I definitely feel more comfortable helping out, and I think that's really cool.
Edge logo. So thank you so much for your time tonight. We really appreciate having the opportunity to show some of our student work to you, and we really appreciate all the support that we continue to get from all of our administrators and the Board of Ed, and it's just so important to us to have your support and backing, so thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Julia. I would just like to say, when you walk around the schools, you're in on the schools and you sort of see the hallways and you see all the wonderful artwork there at every level. And even here, just looking around at these pictures up here, they're fantastic. And, all the outlets for sort of creative expression that you provide in your programs for our kids is just fascinating. And you watch that and you see how not only does it crosses all academic disciplines, which is nice, and they're utilizing all their creative expression in other classes and problem solving, and also using artwork as a sort of a bridge to different careers paths too. Yeah, so it really is nice. So it's just you've done a wonderful job, and on behalf of the Board of Education, I want to thank you for your tireless effort over all the years. Wish you the best of luck in retirement, and I know we're in good hands, Matt, so congratulations very much. So I'll just open it up if anybody wants to say anything.
So I just want to say that since I just think the art program just from kindergarten through 12 is phenomenal in this school district. Congratulations on your retirement. We're going to miss you. We are in great hands, though. I remember your speech at graduation. It was so good. You'd fit right in here at this table having a JD, so, I mean, come anytime. I know we're in good hands, but we are going to miss you, so I did want to just say congratulations. It's well-deserved, but we are going to miss you. You've done such a good job, and just watching my own children grow throughout the years in their art, and up now I have a high schooler growing, and she's in art, and it's phenomenal. And coming here, like Chris said, walking through the halls, it's so great, and it's great for. I know now we talk about social emotional learning, social emotional issues. It's so great just for everything that we talk about. That it makes me proud to be on the Farmington Board of Education, to have such a good program here, and you've done such a great job. So thank you so much, but congratulations most of all.
Just to say that everyone in our department takes the lead in different areas, so I can't take all the credit by far. But we have an amazing team that everyone takes a piece of all of it. And we're very lucky that way. Thank you.
Can take
But that's what makes you great. So thank you very much.
Okay, next item on the agenda, 5B, Health, Physical Education, Wellness Presentation.
So Ed is here, one of our other department leaders, and he's going to present this evening on our Health, Physical Education, and Wellness Department. There are some trends that are going on in that area, and we want to share those trends with the board and community and make everyone aware of the connections that we have within our curriculum to address both our standards, but also as issues arise, we're quick to address those areas and to ensure our students' needs are met within all our programming, but especially in our Health, Physical Education, and Wellness Department. So Ed is here for the second time this year, so welcome, Ed.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for your time this evening. On behalf of our K-12 staff, I'd like to thank you for all your support. And we really do have a very dedicated K-12 staff, and I'm very proud of them. And they're excellent in every building, and they take their leadership seriously in every building. And so for the last 17 years, I think we've had a great team, and I couldn't be prouder of them. I just want to talk tonight a little bit about this idea of wellness, and as Kathy said, some of the issues I think we want to just dive into really quickly. So we take, typically I give you a report on the Student Attitude and Behavior Survey. That survey will be done again in 1 year from this month, and then fall of 2020 we'll be reporting out on those trends, which have been positive over the years, so hopefully we keep moving in that area. I want to touch upon some of the foundational aspects of our K-12 program, and I want to speak to some of those issues in our curricular response, as Kathy had mentioned. So people ask me about why we tag the word wellness onto our department name, and it really is the right side of this continuum, the idea of awareness, education, and growth, which I think fits really well with the sort of the mission of Farmington Public Schools. Wellness is about the journey, it's about self-direction, it's about responsibility, it's about taking control and making good decisions. And we really see this, that wellness side of the continuum as sort of our mission. The focus, for us, we see everything we do not as just sitting in discrete silos, but being interconnected. So while we have health education classes and physical education classes, really we see it really all focused on a wellness idea. We express that in our standards, and these are not all our standards. These are just the three categories, the three strands. But we think about it in terms of foundational skills with the essential question of, what do I have to be able to do to live a healthy and balanced life? The second is content literacy, and the question is, what do I have to know and understand to live a healthy and balanced life? And the third strand is decision-making and planning, which is really focused around how do I use what I have learned to develop and implement a plan for healthy and balanced living. So these three strands really kind of encompass everything we do in our program, K through 12. The idea of building skill, those could be physical skills, they could be communication skills, they could be evaluation and analysis skills, knowing and understanding content, which could also be understanding what the misperceptions are, what we're misperceiving. And how do we use that information? Goal setting, advocacy, making plans. This is all embedded in our curriculum. Kids are all along the way are asked to goal set. They're all along the way they're asked to build a plan. We have a course that's called Analyzing Influences on Wellness, looking at media. What influences your wellness decisions? So we really try to live these standards and these strands. We express these strands and these standards to students in this fashion. Freshmen and sophomores learn what we call the 12 ingredients of wellness. And I cannot tell you where this came from. It's been in the district since the mid-90s, believe it or not. It wasn't called wellness, it was called the 12 ingredients of health at the time. But you really look at it this way. The first column is food, rest, exercise, and elimination. So food for the mind is knowledge. Food for your social world is love, support and connection. Rest for the mind is relaxation, and rest for the spirit is solitude. And if you survey students about what's missing in their life, they will tell you it's solitude. They can't even conceive of the word sometimes. Being unplugged, quiet time, not listening, not being connected to the rest of the world. It's kind of a foreign concept. For many of us it is. And then exercise for the mind is thinking, and then for the social, your social aspect of your life, it's helping others. And letting go is, positive release of negative emotions, and on the spirit, it's about forgiving. So if you think about everything that wellness encompasses and everything we focus on, we always bring it back to this with kids. This is how we express a wellness model to students. Okay. Okay. So given that kind of foundation, I'd like to talk about three strands, three ideas, trends. Physical activity development, curbing the rise of e-cigarette use, and supporting positive mental health in our schools. Okay. So this is a big part of what we do, and I'm going to focus this basically on K-6 really quickly. We know that children are movement-based. Kids, they might be sitting and working at their desk and being very productive, but we know that when we invest in active time to energize the student's brain, it makes all those still moments even better, more productive. So this balance of finding movement time and getting kids active is really critical to their development. Recently the World Health Organization came out with screen time recommendations. And beyond the numbers, I think this is Jane Yu from Slate Magazine had a really good insight into the fact that it's not the screens per se that's the issue. It's what they're not doing because they're looking at screens. And so we know kids that they learn from playing, they learn from moving, they learn from talking, they learn from watching other human beings. And they're not always doing that when they're staring at a screen. So we look at this as an opportunity cost to kids. These are opportunities lost when they're doing that. They're not playing, they're not observing, they're not communicating. And so we need to sort of twist that balance. And we're talking about, younger kids also, not just high schoolers. The time spent with a screen theoretically could involve some of these types of learning. And we need to sort of get a little control of that. I teach, besides my time here, I teach a couple college courses, wellness courses. And this is a great conversation with college kids, freshmen and sophomores in college, about this and how it rules their lives. So it starts young and it goes right through early adulthood, where it really can influence their day-to-day life. So if we go to the next one, Andrew, thank you. So we look at, especially our K-6 program is really focused on the idea of competence, confidence, persistence, and movement. We want kids to be competent movers, which will make them confident movers, which means they'll be persistent movers. So the recommendations for children this age, students this age, and this isn't in the school day, this is in their 24-hour day, is 180 minutes of activity a day. And kids move differently than adults. They don't go and work out for a half hour and then, whatever. It could be 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. They're going to run around the yard and collapse and not do anything for a half hour. Then they'll be, I have 4 sons. This is the way it was. They're running around again, and then they're... So 180 minutes of movement, just not sitting or being physically active in their day is really critical. 60 of those minutes should be moderate to vigorous, where the kids are out of breath and they're sort of really engaged in really active movement. The schools, besides physical education and recess, we're doing a really good job with the movement breaks in classrooms, especially at the elementary level. I think I've seen estimates of 75, 85% teachers use them on a regular basis. And these are just 5-minute little breaks in between lessons or in the middle of a lesson just to break things up, get kids out of their seat, move them around, sort of energize their brain. and then back to work, you know, and these really are investments of time that really kind of refocus kids. We're going to relaunch this program in the fall, sort of make a big deal out of it is our plan, and make it even easier for teachers to use in the classroom on the Google Drive, and let them just click into things that they can use. So, moving at this age group, kids should be able to test their limits and have in a variety of environments, and they should have a balance of structured and unstructured play with some direct instruction. So, Andrew, thank you. So this is really what we're about, K-6, is really about these kind of skills with kids, these fundamental skills, these things that are foundational. We know that kids who are physically active when they're younger, when they have some skill, when they feel competent, confident, persistent, they'll move more. And if they move more when they're younger, they'll be healthier when they're older. I know Veronica's going to talk about this later, but physical activity in youth correlates with adult health more than the fitness test scores do. Fitness test scores have no correlation with adult health because it's really, fitness test scores correlate more with the age when you take it versus if you're 10 years 1 month versus 10 years 11 months, that, and who your parents are, just your genetics. If you're bigger, stronger, and faster in elementary school, you might not have a lifestyle that's going to sustain that. But you might have a kid who's not doing well on the fitness test, but he's got an active lifestyle that, as adulthood comes, will pay off. We do use the fitness test for kids to set goals individually and try to improve and use those scores in that way. But we're really after this repertoire of movement when they're younger that they can carry forth, and this grows into them trying new things when they're older. I mean, in any discipline, if they find success and have some competence, they will continue to be learners down the road. You know, we're really thinking about this in a lifespan and not just what can we do in 12 years. Thank you, Andrew. All right, that's movement. Another big issue that's kind of come up and that's drawn our attention is e-cig use, sort of beginning at the middle school and then certainly at the high school to a certain degree. And this is something that's exploded on the scene the last 4 years, and honestly probably caught adults by surprise to a certain degree. And then I think we've caught up. I think we're a little ahead of the curve now. We were definitely behind the curve for a while. Students had a little head start on this whole culture before we got wind of it. But so this past fall, we had 2 focus parent meetings dealing with this topic. And I created a PowerPoint for parents that's been in the Friday folders. And I'm just going to quickly, I'm not even going to go through the PowerPoint, but just talk about a few of these ideas. So 2 things that are driving, really 3 things that are driving student use are some misperceptions. And one misperception is that vaping is a low-risk activity. Kids assume that it's low risk. It's flavored water. They don't understand nicotine. They don't understand what else is in there. We know that nicotine is one of the most highly addictive substances and fools around and kind of hijacks the reward center of the brain. We know that Stanford University's medical school has a great resource on this, and they talk about the misnomer that vaping actually has vapor. There is no vapor. It's not water-based at all. It's really an aerosol. And so we talk to the kids about spray water on your hand, like spritz water on your hand and do that, and then spray hairspray on your hand. Well, what's going in your lungs is the hairspray. It's really an aerosol. It's solids contained within that gas. And that's, so we play around with the idea of that it's not a low-risk activity and try to deflate that misperception. And also the idea that healthier than means healthy. Because kids don't know what's healthier than cigarettes. Like they say, well, you know, weed is healthier than alcohol or whatever. And so we talk about healthier than does not mean healthy or low risk, especially for a developing brain. So when we tackle these topics about what's legal or not legal, we just say, look, with a developing brain, none of this is low risk and none of this is, you know, what we would call healthy. The other misperception is the amount of use amongst their peers. We have to convince kids that most Farmington students are making healthy choices. If you ask them how many kids vape on a regular basis, they'll say 80%. And well, the number in our last survey was about 8% of our seniors vaped on a regular basis. So let's say in the 2 years since then, that number's gone up 100%. So we're at 16% of our seniors vaping on a regular basis. Nationally, they say the number's gone up 68% in 2 years. So we're still a significant number of kids, but we're not the majority of kids, not even close. So when we talk to students about where that perception comes from, we find that, like most things, kids who are engaged in this activity talk about it. It's out there. You know, if you're raking leaves at the senior center, that's not the conversation that's going to be spread around school on Monday. But if you're at the party or you've been talking about vaping or whatever, that gets talked about. So that perception gets passed along to kids. And they hear about it a lot. They see it on Instagram. They see it on Snapchat. Kids are out there with it, and so they perceive it's happening even more than it is happening. So we have to drive down that misperception of use also. The other misperception is that there's no harm, to go along with that. But we also know that kids are 3 times as likely to start using regular tobacco products if they vape. Within 6 months, they'll be using regular tobacco products, cigarettes and cigars and hookahs and things like that. So we kind of drive down those misperceptions. The other, you can go, Andrew, thank you. The other is sort of supporting the majority of kids who are making healthy decisions, and talking about the idea that, so this was a campaign, this was actually a video that played on the 905 News, Courtney Landhier did, with the I Am Majority tag, and kids talking about things they do in the school that are healthy, and talking about I am the majority. And just to say that, look, most kids are making healthy decisions. And this is the work of our peer leaders around the district also, to really talk about and present themselves as kids to younger peers who are making really good, healthy decisions around the district. So this is a major part of what we do, is sort of deflate that perception that everyone is doing it around all substances. So, in the last issue we want to tackle, thank you, Andrew, is the idea of supporting positive mental health. Been a lot of talk around social and emotional learning, and for a while now, and actually since the mid-90s, Farmington has had a really, well before my time, has had a really solid curriculum around mental health. I did a presentation at a conference in New Haven about a year ago, and this was the title of it, A Culture of Caring, which is really what I think we have in our district, is people who care and keep an eye out for each other, and are there to support each other. Thank you, Andrew. I didn't mean to do this. No, just click through, thank you. So our 10th grade, we deal with this in 2 places, mostly 10th grade curriculum. The middle school curriculum deals with stress. 10th grade curriculum has a solid mental health unit. We talk about what positive mental health looks like, not just what disorders look like, but what does positive mental health look like? Coping with the day-to-day ups and downs, and having purpose, and being connected, and these things are positive mental health. We do talk a little bit about disorders. We talk about perception and reality related to depression and suicide. We will, with sophomores, be doing the full QPR gatekeeper training, which we do with seniors now. Starting next year, we're going to move that whole training to the sophomore year. We talk about how to help a friend and who your 3 trusted adults are. Who would you go to if you're in trouble, or if you have a peer or a friend who's in trouble, and really get them to think about that. We ask them to probe this question: how is having a mental health disorder not like having a broken arm? And the idea of how do we treat people with a broken arm, or that, versus how do we treat people who have mental health disorders, and there's this stigma around that, and how that leads to people not letting other people know that they're suffering or in trouble. So, and we do a lot with the last 2 here are looking at stress and having kids look at a personal stress plan, identify the stressors in their life, and identify the coping and mitigating factors around reducing that stress. And coming up next year for our seniors, we'll be instituting this program from the Porco Foundation. This module, which is a transitional model called For What's Next. It's really about what's next beyond high school for you, and how this is the social and emotional part of that. Colleges are having a lot of issues with this on campus, so we want kids to feel confident leaving campus, that They have what we call reaching in, or coping mechanisms. They know their own coping mechanisms and how to deal with stress and these things. And reach out. What are their resources? Who are their resources? And we will apply that to conflict, time, money, relationships, a bunch of things. We're going to take this module and expand it out for our seniors, and try to leave them with something as they leave us. Sort of like a capstone to our wellness program here. We want to leave them with something as they leave here and help them transition. One of the things we'll have them do also is like look at the websites of the colleges they're interested in, and look at all the mental health resources and the recreational resources that are available to them there, so they feel comfortable about what their resources are when they leave here and go there. It might be the military, it might be if they're going to go to work, whatever is next for them, we want them to think about. So, last slide, Andrew. So, likely with this thought, that wellness matters. Sneak that in there. Marion Diamond, who's a founder, one of the founders of modern neuroscience, said there are 5 things that make for a healthy brain. And she never used the word wellness, but the 5 things were, and she studied the human brain for 60 years at Berkeley. She talked about 5 things in this order were exercise, nutrition, challenge, there's nothing wrong with rigor, newness or novelty. The brain loves newness and novelty and new situations to apply things. And she talked about love being the fifth thing, being connected and being supported. She says if you're after a healthy brain, and I think that's what we want for kids, those are the 5 things you want. You want those 5 things. And so I think we try to contribute to that in the manners we can with the time we have with kids. And I think my staff does a great job in trying to not only do the individual things, but try to connect this in the kids' minds about what all this is about. Why are we doing this activity in physical education? What's that about? Why are we covering this in the classroom? What's that about? And what's the big picture? So there's a lot there. I talk really fast. So any questions or other matters? I just want to give you a little taste of what we're involved in. And you can also look outside. We're involved in distracted driving also. If you saw the van out there, I don't know if you pulled around to the circle. Arbella Insurance, there's a big van trailer in the circle. Their foundation sponsors a distracted driving simulator. It's the 3rd time we've had it. We were the first school in Connecticut to have it like 9 years ago. They're back. Bearing Star, I think, is the local insurance from Arbella, and they sponsor this. And it'll be here all week. The kids sign up for it. Starts at 7:30 in the morning, goes till 3:30, and the kids sign up and go in there, and they get a $15 gas card for doing it. We don't pay for that, trust me. That's Arbella. It's great, and he's packed every day, and the kids really enjoy it. And it really is a good educational opportunity. That's one other thing we're doing. So thank you for your time. If you have any particular questions along the way about things we're doing or topics that come up, always available. So I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
I just want to say that's like the scared straight presentation. I'm like, oh my God. And I did learn something today, because it's not that I wasn't unaware of e-cigarettes and the harmful effect. I did think there was water vapor. I mean,
there's actually no water in there.
Yeah, no, I did believe it. But, I just want to thank you, Ed, because it is a scared straight kind of presentation. and your efforts in doing this is fantastic, because these kids today, I'm glad I didn't grow up in today's world. I mean, it's a scary place with, instantaneous connectivity. I mean, we're immigrants to this world, and the kids are natives to this, and I don't know how they live without it. So they're, the constant stressors of social media, peer pressure, academic performance, everything that they're seeing. I just don't know, how to do it. But I did have one question, because you mentioned you did a couple of parent forums.
Yes.
I mean, as soon as we speaking for sort of our generation, moved to Facebook and found Facebook, the kids are off and they're in Snapchat. So it's hard for parents to stay up with this stuff. So, I mean, can you engage, I mean, are there more plans to engage parents more? Because we close our eyes and there's something new. I mean, I can't keep up with it.
Well, it is true. And Focus tries to get the word out there, especially what is next and what is new and what the kids are doing. I mean, we're always a little behind in trying to get the word out, but because the kids are on to the next thing. As soon as we spend more time on Instagram, they're going to be gone, and then they're on to something else. So they just want their own little, their privacy and their own little space, and they'll find wherever it could be. So we do spend a lot of time with kids trying to talk to them about risk. but we also equally or more try to talk to them about positive behaviors. You know, information, we know information doesn't necessarily change behavior. It's really about skills and what positive behaviors look like, and thinking about that from the positive, whether it's mental health or movement or any of these substance use things, where we really take it from like, not from a good bad, what's risky and more risky, and what's healthy or not healthy, and what does positive, healthy living look like, and trying to show that, and then what are the consequences on the other side of that too. So.
Thank you. You do a great job, Mark.
I thought one of the more interesting things that you pointed out in the first part of your presentation was the idea that solitude is the thing that's lacking the most. It's kind of scary, especially when you think about the way people are stressed out, distracted, mental health, and how the lack of reflection and solitude seems to be the thing that's missing the most out of that presentation you put in. Do you guys have any plans to address that further in the future? Maybe even addressing parents and the importance of teaching their kids reflection and quiet
So
time?
I think, yeah, so I think you're right on. I think, you know, I forget the gentleman's name that Scott brought in at the middle school, just talking about screen time, I think is a good step, just talking about that. With the kids, I give this example, like I'm a cyclist and I'll go off and ride my bike for hours and hours, and they ask me, well, do you listen to a podcast or music? I go, no, it's just me and my bike pedaling. And that's a foreign concept, like quiet time. But Sherry Turkle also does a great, she got a TED Talk from back, I think it's 2012. She talks about being connected but alone. And her new book was called, I think, Regaining Conversation. But kids, they don't, whenever there's downtime or quiet, and we can find this, I find myself doing it, you pick this up and you look for input versus reflecting or thinking. So it's a skill that's gone and quickly diminishing. And so what we talk about kids when they do their stress plan, there's a part in there about quiet time and reflection time, and how could you find it? It gives examples of how you can do that. Anything from yoga or meditation or just walking in the woods, or, you know, when are you alone for your own thoughts to think about what's going on in your own life? And but kids aren't, like you said, they're not tuned into that. They're looking for more input. They're looking for more input. And Sherry Turkle talks about that quite well. And we use the Sherry Turkle TED Talk with our kids and have them reflect on that idea of always looking for input, being connected, but really not connected, and not having that quiet time in their lives. So they're good at relaxation. They're good at a lot of those things. They figure that out. You know, but that solitude part, just, you know, and just a little goes a long way with kids. You know, just decompressing. Yeah.
First, Ed, thank you so much, because I sit on the Health and Wellness Committee as the liaison. We're so fortunate to have Ed. I'm always so impressed. You're always on the cutting edge of the health and well-being of our students, and so I really appreciate it. And I just want to mention that this is an important issue, and a lot of these health standards that the physical education department is going to be working on, we sort of talked about, we might need to talk about these things as a board to weave them into our 5-year goals and send them out to school development plans. So it's just something to keep in mind going forward, that all this work that our phys ed department really, and also even in the arts.
Oh, yeah, I would say art. Yeah, I mean, it's
really, we should be talking about when we're.
Yeah. The Committee on Social and Emotional Learning, you know, that committee has really starting to get into this, and I know there'll be some reports coming out from there. But I think
some more data, right, coming forward on how our teams are doing, and next year.
Yeah. So, but I think this is woven into everything we do, and I think it really supports everything the mission of Farmington High School. All this really supports that very well. Which is kind of why I put the Wellness Matters part up there. It'd be a nice addition to all that. But I think it is kind of, you know, everything we do with relationships and learning, and everything that we do around the problem solving, all these things that we're involved in are foundational, or this is foundational to all that work and our kids learning along the way. So.
Kristen?
I just want to say I appreciated the entire presentation, but I definitely appreciate the part about the K to 6. I could even say pushing a little further.
Yeah.
K to 6, getting them moving.
Yeah.
Because I've often thought about that. You know, the Chromebooks are such a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
But it's another screen.
Yeah.
And then they do homework on another screen, and then there's the phone, and
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
even though, you know, those Chromebooks are very helpful,
Oh.
it is another screen. So having, you know, those things, other things to get them moving, I definitely appreciate that.
One thing I've started to talk to some principals about is the Good Start program even, is sort of getting some of this information into parents as they're coming into our system, and they're hearing everything, you know, all the other parts. It'd be great for them to hear this early on. And so I've started to talk to Carrie about that, piloting something and putting something together. It's just a message, you know, we have to practice it, and I think we're moving in that direction. That's, you know, we're getting there. But it really is one of those things that, as Mark said, making an awareness for parents to think about what's happening when they're not with us, and how all that supports their learning and them being healthy, balanced, and being more productive when they are sitting in a seat. That's what we, you know, when they're there, we want them productive, you know, and focused. And they're better at that when they have this other thing going on too. Absolutely. So.
Sure.
I was just going to comment, you know, as a parent, I really enjoyed the health and the wellness curriculum because, you know, I have a 5th grader and a 9th grader.
Okay.
And it's not, you know, they don't want you to ask them a direct question like about these uncomfortable subjects.
Yep.
But, you know, when it's part of what they're learning day to day at school, you know, to ask your almost 15-year-old son, you know, oh, what are you studying in wellness right now? It's a less intrusive way of having a conversation, or he's listening to a TED Talk for wellness. You can engage in a dialogue in a less intrusive way. So I find as a parent, it's been really helpful to just talk about, hey, what are you learning in school? What do you think about that?
And we try to connect it for kids and make it interesting, talking about the brain and talking about their lives and how it impacts them. It's not just like remember this, and take the test. We do very little of that. It's more applying it, reflecting. Freshmen, they have to synthesize and connect everything they do. It's really kind of the big thing they do. Synthesize it and connect it to their own lives. 10th grade is all about analyzing the influences on your wellness, so it's personal to them. And so I think kids engage in it a little more if it's about them. You get them to talk about them, they're very happy. So,
So, I mean, this presentation was excellent. I agree with Ellen and everyone else that we're very lucky to have you. That award was very well deserved. But I do have some questions. Like, so I saw that's excellent that what the 905 News, you get the word out to the students that way. How else do you get the word out to students that like vaping and e-cigs are bad? Because I guess this ties into my next question, which would be, is the facility here that we have, high school, does it hold you back from the traditional ways of having large, like, you know,
like what? Yeah.
or
So-
when we'd have people come in
Sure.
and give talks, or, I mean, that's when I went to school, that's
Yeah,
what we
yeah.
did, right? We'd have a couple of classes
Sure.
come in, like sophomore, freshman class come in, we'd all sit in the auditorium, we'd have
It's called a TED Talk now.
It really is. Yeah. It's great, by the way. It's great.
I don't think they existed when I was.
No, there's the handy thing. But that's a great question. So the first part of that was, how are we getting the word out?
Right, so how do you?
Yeah,
what's
so
the
we use
alternative
a couple of things. We have a great partnership with FCD Prevention Works, which focus sponsors, and they're here for a full 4-day program in the fall with our 10th graders. They're here for 4 days. They see our 10th graders four days in a row in small groups in classes. So they see them in intact classes. And so these are outside people who are really highly trained people. They're all in long-term recovery, but they're just excellent educators. FCD has a great reputation. They're a great nonprofit. They work around the world. So they're a great resource for us. We use our peer leaders to go into classrooms, 9th grade classrooms, seniors, to talk about these things, talk about you know, what healthy looks like as you go through high school, what positive behaviors are, what decision-making looks like, talk about the brain. They talk about normative beliefs and social norms and things like that. And then so in terms of getting the word out, we try to get them connected with people So we're there every day, but it's good to hear the idea of novelty. It's good to hear other people talking about it, so they're not hearing it from the teacher all the time. We try to do some public service campaigns on 905 News. We have the kids actually create PSAs, some of their projects, and we try to post those around, things like that. To your second question, I'm not a big fan of the big auditorium events. I really do like, we had, CVS does a really great program about opioids. And I said, they wanted to come to Farmington. And we have a parent who actually developed a program here in town. She wanted to pilot it here. It went national. It was a great success. I said, the only issue is you have to do it 16 times. I don't like assemblies. I think, and so she brought a team of pharmacists in, and they did it 16 times over 2 days. I just find the kids are connected to it in a classroom, in a group from 15 to 25, where they feel like they can raise their hand and talk. They can engage in conversation. And so that's the way FCD does it with us. They do it in assembly sometimes, but their core program is intact classes. I just think it's more personal, and kids are more engaged, and they're more likely to express themselves and have a conversation in that versus sitting in the auditorium. So while the auditorium, I'm sure, does hold us back in some regards, we tend to avoid the big assemblies if we can. We even had a senior a number of years ago wanted to come and speak to our freshmen. And I gave her the same rules. You have to do it 16 times. You have 16 freshman classes. She did, but the conversations were better. She really engaged in conversations with the kids. So she did a 40-minute presentation 16 times over a couple of days. I think the kids just get a lot more out of it in those small groups, and so we've kind of stuck to that. But we're always looking for ways to communicate out, especially to parents. I know you've all struggled with, as a board and as an administration, how do we communicate with parents where they're listening and they're involved? And so the Friday folders, we're doing a lot with the Friday folders, and getting information out there, not just that PowerPoint, but also other things from FCD and different things that people can click on. And I built the PowerPoint so you can click into it and look at it, but you also can click into it some more if you want to get a little deeper. And you can click into it a little more if you want to go a little deeper. But at least if you look at the PowerPoint, you're going to get the basic information out of it. That, I think, is a struggle. I mean, I think we're all struggling. People are overloaded with information. So.
And I have another question. The vaping or e-cigs, you said that the survey that went out 2 years ago, or the
June 2017.
Okay.
Yeah.
We had 112 kids that said that they were doing it.
I don't know what the number.
We said it was 8%.
8% of the senior class said they vaped on a regular basis.
Right.
So that was the class with the most, obviously.
So, I mean, I just know that, and so what have we done in response to
Yeah.
that? Because
Yeah.
I know that it's a big problem
Yeah.
at the high
So-
school. Like,
so we-
there are-
yeah.
There are bathrooms that students won't go in. There are buses students don't want to go on. And I know that it's a problem. So let's say that went up, 68%. That's still,
Yeah.
like, that could be
15,
60
14,
kids,
15%, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So,
So if you take, even 10% of a senior class of 300 kids, we're talking about 30 kids, whatever, multiply that out. So I know administratively, I don't want to speak. Bill's back there. Hi, Bill. I know that, the bathroom monitoring and the locker room monitoring, all that has got ratcheted up a lot in the building.
Is that what you're saying, that they had, the students had a head start?
A little bit of head start on it, and then, to what degree do we want to be sending people in the bathroom every?
Well, right, I mean.
And so,
yeah.
but that all that has been ratcheted up, and I think, because we know that kids started to move towards the locker rooms during the day because they know the bathrooms weren't a place you could do that anymore. So now we're closing down the locker rooms, and so they're always going to, especially the kids who are addicted. I mean, an addiction is an addiction. If you're addicted to nicotine, it really is. So, so from that, I think we've policies and things and behaviors on our end, actions have dove into that. And I'm sure the other part was about administratively, but also.
No, I just wondered what.
Oh, so curriculum-wise, we starting in 7th grade, we're talking about this explicitly now.
Okay.
We're even trying to figure out how do we talk to 5th and 6th graders about it without, you know, I mean, it's a different kind of conversation with 5th and 6th graders. It's more of a wide-ranging, putting things in your body kind of conversation. And then if a kid mentions vaping, we can move into that. But I'm not sure all 5th graders, I've been told I'm crazy by some parents, but I'm not sure all 5th graders would even know what it was. So you don't want to normalize it. You don't want to say all high school kids do this.
Right.
You want to approach it in a delicate manner. So we're trying to figure it out there. But 7th and 8th grade, we've hit it head on. We've moved some things out of the way, and we're being very explicit with it. So.
All right. And then just, I think my last question is about the social emotional learning, or the mental health question, the thing at the end. About it being a stigma, I mean, the perception versus reality. I can't remember the last survey, but does it have any questions on it about perception versus reality, like about seeking mental health help?
Our survey doesn't touch upon that, but traditionally kids at this age, they think if somebody has confided in them that they're struggling or they're thinking about self-harm, and they say, don't tell anybody, they think they shouldn't tell anybody. And we're about, it's the secret you don't keep. And that's really what we're about. So we do a program called QPR Gatekeeper Training, which is all about question, persuade, and refer. Think about CPR. It's first aid. It's, you're a first responder or first aid for a mental health crisis. So we train all 300 of our seniors. We're the only high school at this point in Connecticut that does that. We train all 300 of our seniors, and we do it with our sophomores also, around recognizing the signs in other people that they're in distress, whether it's verbal, nonverbal, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's just things they're mentioning or changes in their behavior, and knowing what your resources are and how to talk to them about that, and ask them the question, are you in trouble? Are you having a crisis? And then who are your resources to reach out and help? And kids use the skills. Kids here use the skills. Kids who leave here and send us back emails, I can't believe I used this. I had a roommate who was in trouble or whatever. But they do that, and the counselors will tell you that kids are, because think about it as inoculations, how inoculations work. We're all learning now how inoculations work. It's not about having the shot. It's the fact that we've all had the shot, and if the inoculation is not working on you, you're protected because we're all protected. So this is how I think about training all kids around mental health, is that they have eyes on their peers that we don't have. They have eyes on Instagram and Snapchat and communication that we as parents would never see. And so they're the best source for knowing if somebody is having difficulty. What we did learn from the survey over time is that with substance use, kids' grades will be the last thing that goes, even if they're in trouble, because they know that's what people are watching. They know their parents keep an eye on their grades, and that they will keep their grades up even if the rest of their life is falling apart, because it's the first thing. But their peers know. Their peers know if they're in trouble. So having everyone aware, I think, and having eyes on their peers, I think protects everyone to another degree. You could train faculty. Most districts will train faculty around this and staff, and not their kids. And I just thought we should train the kids. They know more about what's going on, so they should know what to do about it. And so they do. And we use a program that is geared towards teens. We just got refreshed in that, and we'll be doing it with some sophomores. We're going to move the whole program to sophomores and do the follow-up with the seniors. I think it's had a big impact, and kids are just more aware, and aware for themselves that there's ways of getting help, and there's ways of getting help for their peers and their friends. So.
I just want to thank you. I think this is such an important topic. You could see by the number of questions and comments that it's an extremely important topic. When I think about our first presentation and this one, it really is about educating the whole child.
Yes.
And, whether body, mind, and their heart. And it's very clear that, all of our departments here at the high school and all of our teachers throughout the district are really focused in on this. And I know you put wellness matters up there, but it does make me think about what Ellen said, our core documents are very important in Farmington. They're not something that sit on a shelf. They're alive in our classrooms every day, and you could see that through the presentations we saw today. And it is true that when the board does enact their next 5-year goals, these are absolutely everything to us, and we then start to build our programming, our curriculum, all our strategic improvement around it. So, that we know that this will be a significant part of that process of, reimagining our vision of the graduate and going out to our parents and all stakeholders and our faculty, our students. In the next year, that's what we're going through, and we're going to keep reporting back to the board and getting feedback from the board. So I think that was an excellent comment, Ellen, and I just want to thank Ed and all of your faculty that just do a tremendous job, K-12 here in Farmington, and we really do focus in on the child. So when you say, in both presentations, peer leaders, student voice, student choice, that is a big part, empowering our students to really know themselves and then know others and connect with others and help as much as possible. So I just want to commend you and your faculty for all your work.
Well, thank you for your time tonight and the questions. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda, 5C, Summer Learning Programs 2019.
So I did see Karen here over to the side. So it's that time of year again.
It is.
We're getting ready for summer programming, and
it's hard to believe with the
it is.
weather and all that stuff. But so I don't have a video or but I have a catalog. So yeah, we're talking about summer. So this year we tried out the sort of two-school program last year, and that was really successful. Unfortunately, this year IR is back off the table, so we're all back at Westwoods. So it sort of revisited our problem for the past of really, sort of being out of space at Westwoods. But Amy and I figured out a way to make it work so that we sort of have 2 tracks to the summer, and we separated performing arts from some of the academic programs, and we made the space work this year with some really flexible and creative thinking from a lot of different parties. So we are back at Westwoods this summer, pretty much all-encompassing the Excel programs back at Westwoods, the SEA, ESY, special services, all the performing arts programs, all the enrichment programs, reading, writing, math, pretty much everything with the exception of the preschool program, which will be at Noel Wallace, and all of the high school accelerated remedial programs and some 4-credit programs there. As well as the multicultural arts is going to be at the high school. So yeah, their programs are outlined here in the report. We have, like I said, a pretty large selection of different things going on. So we have the summer's pretty much full. So we have the Excel camp going on throughout the entirety of the summer, and then we start off with some of the elementary programs, the Summer Exploration Academy. We start off with the Special Services Extended School Year program and some of the enrichment programs. The Band Academy is starting at the beginning of the summer, and then later on in the summer we have the Strings Academy, and then we also have the Chamber Academy, which Carl Strugart started last year, which he's going to continue this year for some of the older students. To focus on their talents there. And the Musical Theater Academy, they're doing Beauty and the Beast Junior this year, which is a new presentation. That one hasn't been done yet, so that should be really cute. And then finishing up the summer in mid-August and, reconvening and seeing how it went, reporting back after that. And then hopefully, next year getting to have more space like we did and utilize both Westwoods and IR, but we'll kind of cross that bridge when we get there. So this catalog outlines pretty much everything that's going on throughout the summer. Amy, who's the Enrichment Academy supervisor, is also in charge of the catalog design, and she put together this catalog actually, so she did a really, really nice job of laying out basically everything that's going on. So it's a lot of teamwork, and meeting with different program managers and administrators and just trying to tie everything together because there are a lot of moving parts. And, you know, a lot goes into summer. We're expecting hundreds of students to walk through Westwoods and the high school and, you know, Noah Wallace, and just trying to keep everything straight and talking to all the different parties about everybody and keeping everybody on the same page. So, you know, we're expecting a pretty big summer. So that's it in a nutshell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know, as Kathy said, that time of year, and that time of year where I'll say, every year I'm amazed at the spectrum of offerings we have in the program. It's just, you know, it's just amazing when you see what we do with this program. So you should commend it for that and running the program beautifully. So just great job. I mean,
Thanks.
Yeah. Any questions for Karen? Good luck. Yeah, I mean, you have your hands full. But
I'll be back in August, September.
you're the only person that can't wait for the first day of school, right?
Yeah. Have a good night.
Yeah, thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Karen.
Okay, next item on the agenda, 5E, engaged learning update.
Oh, did we miss?
Did we? Oh, D, I missed D, I'm sorry. Oh, Farmington's the accountability report, yep. Sorry, Veronica.
Waiting all night.
So this is something that
I
you
prematurely
see.
put a check mark next to it, so
Yes.
I apologize.
Yeah. This is a report that you see every year. It's the State Department, the Connecticut State Department of Education's accountability system. We have our own accountability system within Farmington. This is the outside accountability system. We present this to the board each year. And Veronica is an expert in all elements of this report. So
Unless you ask me
welcome,
really hard.
Veronica. Yes.
We'll see. So I want to pass something out, but I don't want you to look at it, so I'm not going to pass it out until I'm ready, because I know how that goes. I was a teacher for a long time. Once I hand it out, you start looking at that. And you'd be interested, because this is really our report card. This is like the report card of the schools. And so in the report, what I try to keep it short, because I really could go on and on about it. I mean, there's so many ways to slice and dice the data, and it's all, to me, super interesting. So if it were up to me, this report would be really, really long, but I know that that's not really possible, and nobody cares probably as much as I do about it. The first page, what I try to do is just remind you of the background of where this came from. And so really what we're talking about here is the state was trying to say, is there a way that we can provide some comparison to schools so they know where they stand without it being only about the test scores? And so what they came up with was, still, there's a lot of that in there, but they also had that measure now with Smarter Balance about growth. So there's a huge emphasis on growth. And there's a big emphasis, too, on making sure that all means all, so that equity piece of it. So they make, there's a big focus, there's a lot of points to be earned with how you do with your high needs groups. So that's like an important part of this equation. They try to also say it's not just about test scores, it's also about how ready are you for a college and career. So they wanted to give school districts points for the number of students they could get, for example, into high-level AP classes and those kinds of classes. And not just AP, but maybe even CTE, which is the career and technical education classes. They want to give people points for graduation, and also, again, points for graduation in the high needs groups. In attendance. So all of those are sort of under the category of producing college and career ready graduates. And then, of course, just preparing well-rounded, civically engaged students are really in that category because it's so hard to measure. They came up with 2 measurements to put in there, although there probably could be more, if you could count how many kids take part in extracurriculars or something like that. But they did settle on, and it's hard to get people to agree on which to be in there, but they did agree on the physical fitness scores, which Ed just told us wasn't a really great indication, which is great because we're not really that great at that indicator in Farmington. And then arts participation, and the arts participation, just so you know, is they're only looking 9 through 12, and the percentage of students who in a year are taking a theater or an arts or fine arts kind of a course. So it's not just, they used to do just access, like how many courses you have in something, and now it's really who's actually taking those classes. So anyway, so that's sort of a background to how what all the numbers are that get added up for a overall score. And then they take an overall score of all the points you earned and they divide it by the number of points that you could have earned available. So a smaller district that doesn't have a high school, because there's some districts that don't have a high school, it wouldn't be out of the 1,350 points like ours is when we have a comprehensive high school and grades K through 12. Also this year, just so you know, only 1,250 points were available because science is not factored in. If you remember, we had a field test the year that we're talking about where these scores came out. And so now the question is, so how did Farmington do on this? And so really, there's 202 districts that get rated this way, that are all districts, and every school gets rated too. So every school gets an index score as well. But out of 202 districts, we actually had the 10th highest number of points earned. Okay, so that's pretty good. In fact, several of those schools ahead of us were A schools, but we actually beat a lot of DIRG A schools. So there were 3 DIRG A schools ahead of us, 4 DIRG B schools ahead of us, and then 2 other schools that were neither an A or a B. And we usually compare ourselves to DIRG B schools. So we really did very, very well. And earned a lot of points in this rating system. But I want to go into a little more detail about a couple of things. We get actually something new. So the page that looks like this, and I should number them, I don't know, but it looks like this. On that page, it says how they also try to then put us into ratings categories. And so it used to be that they took the top 25% of those score earners and then put them in category 1. The next 50% went to category 2, and then the next 25% went into category 3. And then if you didn't meet certain criteria for example, participation on the Smarter Balance test, they would knock you down an entire level. So it wouldn't actually be true that that 25% would be in category 1. Fewer would be because some people get knocked down. You also get knocked down a category if you have an achievement rate gap, which our district does not have, but our high school does have. So we'll talk about that a little bit. We have an achievement rate gap between our whole school population and then our high needs group, which is more than 1 standard deviation of what the gap should be. Okay, so in any case, they've changed that 25%, 50%, 25%, because now that we've been in it several years, they actually cut off. They didn't think it was fair to do this relative rankings, so they actually made cutoffs. So this is the first year that this is true. So category 1, you had to have an index score, which is that number of points accumulated divided by the total number of points you could have earned. And the cutoff was an 85. So that means 85, you had to earn 85% of all points in order to be in this category 1 school. And that counts for schools actually, and not for entire districts. Districts aren't put into these categories, but schools are. And so on the page that follows, I gave you there all of the schools, their index score. You can see the index score there. So those are that rate. That's that numerator divided by denominator that I was talking about. A flag, and if you're flagged, that's when you drop the level because of that either you didn't meet the attendance rate or being the standard deviation away, which the high school is, and then it gives you the category that the schools landed in. And so you can see we actually, 3 of our schools did get special distinctions by the state, which really means that when you pull it up on the state website, there is a little, there's like a little banner on it that says, oh, distinction, see? So here's like, for example, this is the East Farms. So they get, you see this little symbol right there? That shows up online. And not very many schools actually get a distinction like that, which you'll see here at the bottom. I'll talk about that a little bit too.
Veronica, I'm sorry,
Yeah, go ahead.
Where does it show what the flag is?
It doesn't tell you here. I talked about it, I think, at the bottom here. Maybe that's where I put it. But the flag, I just know what it is, and it would be online, or they would tell you, but it is that performance, it's that performance gap. It's the gap. So it describes it on the page before. So it's basically that our high needs groups were more than a standard deviation away from what, in general, the students perform. So it's based on the SAT scores. So there's too large of a gap in the SAT scores between our, the sort of the average and then our high needs group population. And our high needs group population what they do is they super group this high needs population, and so it's whether if you're ELL, free reduced lunch, and special education, any one of those will put you in the high needs group. But we have some students have several of those. And so our rate on, like, for example, special education is about 11%. Free and reduced lunch, it's in our PPR report, but that's about 11%. It's 10.9%, and English learners is 3.8%. And so, but that's actually overall. So I don't know what it'd be for the high school, but probably similar to those kinds of numbers. And there'd be some overlap. So you could say probably somewhere between, 17 to 20% of our population would fall into the high needs group, would be my guess. So that's what it is. So that's why we would fall a level. Otherwise, the high school, having had an index score of 89.44, would have been in a category 1. It would have been a category 1 high school, but because of that performance gap, we do drop down a level there. Now, the other thing I want to point out here, just so you see it, put Union School. Do you see that number? 84.98. That is, we would have also had the distinction of performance in that. So it's 0.02. I mean, and really the cutoff is a cutoff. And so that's probably 1 point on the 750 points available to an elementary school or something like that. So it's, sometimes you're right up to the cutoff there. This is an analysis I did that doesn't really exist. The state didn't put this together at the bottom there, but I just wanted to show you so you sort of have a conceptual idea of where we are falling, where our schools are falling. So at the elementary level, I took out class grades that sort of had the elementary school be the fourth grade be the highest. So the state doesn't do that. They sort of say high school and then sort of everybody else, and they kind of call that elementary and then sort of do a ranking in there. But I separated out and said, okay, who's got it's basically a third of that bulk of third and fourth graders like we do in a school setting. And so we came up with over about 400 schools that would fit into that category. 73 of those schools, including East Farms NOAA, fell into that category 1 school. And then Union almost did, right? I mean, I hate to even put them in the next. They should have like a little line on the in between there. And then West District fell into the second category. And that really, if you do an analysis of why they are in there, is because they actually have very high performers. So on that performance, they do one of the best in the district. But in the growth category, they were actually 30 points out of the 750 behind, for example, Union. So sometimes that's the trade-off. When you perform really well, getting that growth sometimes is very difficult. Even though you would think, you still have to grow a certain amount no matter what category you're in, but certainly sometimes when you get to the higher categories, it actually is harder to grow the number of points that you need to grow in order to get the points. I'm going to show you something with this. Interestingly enough, I'll show you. Okay, I'll show you that in a second. But so anyway, so elementary school, that's you can see sort of how we fall. So again, report card wise, very we feel that it's a very healthy district. Our schools are doing exceedingly well, and probably we're one of the only school districts that would have sort of every school at this high level. I couldn't put Woods anywhere. There's very few configurations like ours with a 5-6 school. In fact, there's only 7 schools that I could find with that exact configuration. So they don't really fall into elementary, they don't really fall into the middle school level, so they really couldn't be slotted on a chart like this. So anyway, so let's moving on to the middle school. IER is very interesting because, you know, they are, these are schools that really are like sometimes 6, 7, 8, and sometimes a 7, 8. So I lump those all together. And you can see that of all those schools, one school actually is in category 1. So there is something about the middle level that makes it almost impossible to get that 85% score. Okay, and so, but actually, our middle school IAR was very high. So we were in the top 10 of all of these schools. So we were, that's why I try to show the arrow being like on the higher end of that category too, because we were very high up in terms of a school with that configuration of either 7, 8 or 6, 7, 8. That sort of, those are the schools I put into middle school, and we were very high up in that ranking. And then, as I told you before, FHS actually would have been in the category 1 in terms of the number of points, but we got knocked down a category because of the gap. And so you can see I depicted it right on that border because actually points-wise we're in that top. Points-wise we're actually in that top group. So anyway, so really, I mean, comparatively, comparison-wise here, we're doing very well. And so I wanted to give you, this is another way to look at, this is the district sort of report card with the numbers. So now that I did some explaining, you can have a better chance now of looking at the index, the rate, and then the target in each one of these categories. So if you need help remembering what each indicator is, there's Appendix A, which explains what everything is. So see how there's 1A. So anything that's an indicator 1 is all about student performance index, and anything that's 2 has to do with the growth. 3 is not there because that's attendance at the test, and that's just is going to drop you down an entire level if you don't have it, so they don't actually put a number there. 4 is about absenteeism. 5 and 6 are both about the college classes that you're taking, and then actually 6 is really percent passing exams, including the SAT. And then you can see we have several graduation indicators, 7, 8, 9, post-secondary entrance, 10, physical fitness, and then arts access, as I described before. And so here you can see Farmington scores index rate. So that means the percentage, like for example, the 80.7 under 1A, that's ELA performance, all students. 80.7 of the students did meet the performance level, and then that would mean then, but our target was 75. That's what the state is expecting, 75. So we earned all of our points. All 50 points that you could get for our performance on ELA, we got. So I'm just using that to describe so you can see how an index rate versus then the state gives a target, and then it translates into points earned. And then those points earned are totaled up to that overall number of 1,072.7, which made us 10th highest in the state. That's the number I'm talking about that made us 10th highest in the state in terms of those numbers. Another thing to point out here is that a lot of points are really lost on that growth. See the growth?
All 4 of those are
right. It looks low, right? And so you think, oh my gosh, we lost a lot of points there. We actually do very well on growth. That's a very high number because even though the state says, oh, the target's 100%, just so you know, the way that they benchmark all of the scores for how much growth they would expect, only 40% of kids can actually meet those targets. So if you look, I know it's so confusing, right? So really they set those benchmarks to say, we think that a student should grow from this number to this number, But then they admit, or they say, that they base it on that only 40% of students could actually do that. So the fact that 72% of our kids can do that means that 32% more of students are getting that than is the state average. I know it doesn't look so impressive because you think, oh, only 72%, but and they do that on purpose because they want them to be rigorous growth goals for every student. They want it to mean something and for us to stretch to get there, but only 40% of students can actually meet that target. So 72 is actually very, very impressive. Isn't that? It's so, this is like high level data I'm giving you. That would be hard for a lot of people to figure out that that's the way that all of this works. So that is how it works. You can look at it. If you look on the state, for example, and they have a state report card with these exact numbers, you would see in all those categories for growth that they would be about 40%. And that was how the state set those benchmarks for growth. So it makes sense that it's turning out the way that they said it would turn out. It's just that we happen to have much higher than that. We're at 72, and you could see it there. So that actually is good growth. Okay, so it's not something that in terms of, certainly we always want that to be 100%. We would die for that to be 100%, but certainly we're not feeling like we've done poorly in terms of the growth, based on where the state has set those benchmarks. So some highlights that I'd like to point out are on the next page. Do you want to ask a question now? Maybe I'll pause.
I know, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Go ahead. I'll look it up.
Oh.
So these are our room for improvement, is basically like the growth, because they're, looking at that, you would say this is positive. I'm sorry.
Yes, I would say that it's positive, but would I say that there's always room for growth? Yes, that's what we're shooting for. That's really what we're aiming for. And that's one of the reasons we really like the indicator being this way, that it has that growth score in it, because we really strive to have every student grow compared to where they were before. I mean, it used to be very unfair that you would have a student who you've made a year and a half worth of growth with, and they got no points because they still haven't met that absolute number. So now maybe you're not getting the points for them in the ELA performance index, but you're getting a lot of points for them now in the growth, which I think is a really much better indicator than we ever had before, because that was only about who made the cut and who didn't make the cut. And now it's about that and whether you made growth, which I think is very nice and gives credit to students and to the teachers who are working extremely hard to move them. It's just that you have to make a lot of, the state just set rigorous growth goals that only 40% of students can achieve on average.
And as well, we're also concerned that all children make growth. So
yeah, that's why I'm like,
it's important that even if you are a child at benchmark, you want to keep growing. So before an absolute achievement, it might have been someone's impression, well, they're at standard, I don't have to worry about them anymore.
Right.
We want to be sure that we're always paying attention to every child growing, whether they're at standard when they walk in the door or they have far to go. So that's why we like kind of this dual system of getting, people to pay attention in both ways to student achievement.
There a lot of, on the last page, I tried to give some highlights of how I think we've done in terms of those three broad categories that I described in the beginning that they were trying to achieve. One being a well-rounded education. So given the number of points that we have, you can tell that we're paying attention to all of those indicators in all those areas because we've done very well at that. So I've already described that. And so I think some of the questions that you're asking about, Christy, are really about this sort of this, also this equity and what Kim was describing too is, or actually the growth score is really in that last one, but in terms of equity, our students in the high needs categories, even though sometimes you look at the number and we would obviously like that to be higher. You know, you look at ELA performance of high needs students, 68.4% versus all students is 80.7%. And actually, if you took out all the high needs students and just did non-high needs students versus high needs students, that would be even higher than 80.7%, you know, because once you take out the high needs students out of that average. So that is a large gap. Not as large as that standard deviation that I was talking about, but it is a large gap that we'd like to see erased. But even in terms of that, students in our high needs category, I described it in here, that 68.4% makes us 14th in the entire state. So even though we think, oh, that's not very good, we are doing well comparatively in the state, even with our high needs students. That makes us very competitive, like high up there. And then in the entire state in math, the 64% of high needs group met the standard. That puts us in the top 20 of all districts, which is the top 10%. And we're the only district in Durg A or B to have our high needs group in the top 10% of performers in both ELA and math. So, I mean, those are really impressive results that even though we look at the numbers and we're like, oh, we'd like it to obviously be higher, we are doing well when you look at some comparative data. And then this student growth is also very strong. It puts us in the top 10% of all districts in the state. And really an area that could be improved in the rankings is the growth of our high needs groups. So that's sort of putting together high needs and growth. We are above the middle in this ranking, which is like not where we ever want to be, but not in the top 10% of all districts. We are in the overall achievement, as I just described, but in terms of how much growth our high needs students are making, it's like middle of the pack. So that's definitely an area to look at and focus on, and actually particularly in math. And I think that one of the reasons for that is because we do such a great job with, and we have interventions in math, but a lot of times if a student needs ELA interventions, they'll get that. And if they also need math, it becomes complicated, and often they'll get the ELA support before they'll get the math support sometimes. So I think that might be an area to look at. How do we give the students enough support in ELA and in math, and what are we doing there? So I think that's an area to look at. A couple other places I'd say to look at are obviously, and this is an interesting one, the percentage of students taking these college and career readiness courses. So I think, we do a really great job with AP. That puts us high in rankings, but other schools have done more with dual enrollment. But what we found is when they have the dual enrollment, we actually are very high in this percent passing exams. So it's kind of a trade-off. So I don't know, in any case, so I think that that's an area to look at. Could we figure out ways to, and it doesn't have to be just AP courses, but dual enrollment, looking at our CTE offerings, other kinds of things, and making sure that, we're offering enough courses that would qualify for this college and career readiness courses. So those are areas, those are some areas to look at in terms of this. And then, our physical fitness score, in a DIRG comparison, we're actually, this is, I think, why Ed kind of looked at me during his presentation, said Veronica's going to talk about this, but while we are sort of really ahead of the pack, even in our DIRG on all these other indicators. So even just, comparing the state is one thing, and that's what they put up there, but I did an analysis of our DIRG, and even in growth and all these places, we're 4 to 5% higher than the average of these districts that we compare ourselves to. That is not true in the physical fitness score. So I don't know if this is our high standards and we are looking for the perfect push-up or what it is, but I think that actually may be part of it, because you have to pass all 4 tests in order to get the full credit for that. So we lose some points, obviously, there. So, like I said, I think it's a very strong report. We actually earned more points, not by much, but we earned more points this year than we did last year. And, I think that this points us in some directions for improvement. And not only that, but I think because of transparency, we know where everyone else is and where other schools are doing well. So it also points us in the direction of other places that we can ask for, advice or what are you doing that might help us understand what we could be doing better. So in terms of programming and thinking about, opportunities for improvement, we also have places that we can go to get some help, which is nice. Which is a nice feature of this kind of program too. So, like I said, I think that we've done well, but there's always, Farmington, so there's always room for improvement. And I'll take any questions.
Well, thank you, Veronica, and thank you for distilling that. Because I think if we got any more of a report, would be
yeah. So you didn't want it longer,
yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. No, it was highly manageable, so it's good. I mean, when you highlight these areas, do we have any direct action takeaways, like curriculum-wise, programming-wise, that are we just monitoring this and sort of using this as high-level information, or?
No, this goes right back to, so this was the topic of a conversation that I would have with literacy math specialists last week, so it was brought to them, and then they think about what this means for our SRBI programming, what does it mean for our curriculum, so definitely it's feedback right back into the system.
All right, good.
So results matter in Farmington. So our principals look at this. They talk a lot about, areas that they want to work on in addition to, our core documents, our vision of the graduate, but they also will work on these areas. I think it is a reflection of Connecticut looking at more of the whole child, where in the past the accountability system was about absolute performance. So a place like Farmington didn't really get a lot out of the accountability system for the state, and we really would get all of our information from the internal accountability system that the board has for us, which is our results and outcomes booklet every year. This does provide us with more information, and they've set rigorous goals for us and rigorous growth targets, and so I really appreciate that every school district can find something within this accountability report that they can work on, and the idea that the arts are in the accountability report and physical education, and growth, those are definite important messages for everyone in Connecticut, that we really are about the whole child, and we don't want to not do those things just for achievement. That part of a comprehensive education, and we saw that this evening. It was perfect to start off with those two presentations, that it's essential for us to develop the whole child, and this has been a commitment in Farmington for a very long time. So when this accountability system came out and they really launched it, we felt we were well positioned because we have such excellent art programming here in Farmington, physical education programming. We have higher standards in those areas, music programming. We felt very good about it, and we felt like we pay attention to growth and we pay attention to equity. So this matches, the priorities that we have in the school district. And so we do get a lot of information from this and have lots of conversations through our teaming and, structures within the district to work on those areas that we see need for growth.
Sure, and then it'll feed right back into those development plans again next year. I'm sure you'll see
You're going to see
some
things.
efforts right in there to try to address some of the things that I've highlighted today.
Any questions for Veronica?
Thank you.
Yep, thank you, and apologies for the oversight again.
You can check it off.
Do you want to move down?
Okay. Do you want
to move?
You want to do it?
Yeah, just put
okay.
it
Yeah. Okay. All right. Can I have a motion, I guess, to make item 7 new business on the agenda We'll move that up and now handle item 7 on the agenda, new business.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Okay, can I have a motion to move into executive session?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're in executive session. Okay, we're back in session. Russ, if you could come up to the table, please, and can your family please join you?
If they want.
See, we know you're out
The
here.
whole family.
The whole family.
The whole family, come on up.
That's what you get for coming. It's gonna kill you.
He's chewing away. Is there another one?
You can chew it because you don't.
All right, if I...
Someone else.
Is someone else coming?
Anyone else?
Oh, the parents,
Yes.
come on, everybody.
They're taxpayers.
Well, did they vote for the budget or not?
Of course.
Yes.
All right, if I can have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation to appoint Russell Chris to the position of assistant principal of Farmington High School effective July 1, 2019.
Motion?
And if I can have a unanimous second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Russ, congratulations. Having known you, through my daughter and the golf team, I couldn't be happier to see you get this position. I think it's a win-win for the community, the school, the parents, the students, everybody. And for Scott, you got a good one, Scott, to join your team. So, and the entire team. Yep, Lisa and Mary. So, welcome aboard, and congratulations to the entire family. It's a nice achievement and a wonderful night for you. So, congratulations. Any other comments?
Congratulations.
Yep. All right. Thank you very much.
I don't know, Bill, Scott, Lisa, I think Mary's here. I don't know, I want to give you the opportunity to say a few words just welcoming Russ to this new position.
Certainly thanks to the board and Kathy and Kim for your support. Russ, congratulations. Throughout the process, I think your deep passion and knowledge for both the community of Farmington and the citizens, students, and families that live here has been evident. You've given 18 years of your career here, along with being a product of the Farmington public school system. I couldn't be happier for the kids, the teachers, our team. We're super excited. I don't know, Bill, if you want to add anything to that, but.
Yeah, I'm just thrilled, absolutely thrilled. When you leave a place, you want to know that you're leaving it in good hands, and I just am incredibly pleased about the team that's going to be leading this school in the future, and very happy for Russ and for Scott and for Lisa and Mary, and I know great things are ahead for Farmington High School, so you're doing a great job.
We have to get a picture of everyone, yeah.
Everybody smile.
There you go.
Thank you all very much. Thank you so much.
Congratulations, thank you.
All right, Susan, please approach the bench.
And your family.
And your family.
And come on up.
All the family, come on. The daughters are always like friends.
They match. They're so cute. This is when my husband would be like,
Did you match with your daughter?
And your son, too. One of them got the memo.
and I'm glad the two of you, all of you coordinated
Yep.
too. It's really good together.
Very photogenic.
Oh, that's right.
Do you have a
We
job
heard about that music.
Job rocker, we could get the music now.
I'm in, I like music.
All right, if I can have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation to appoint Susan McMahon to the position of assistant principal of Irving A. Robbins Middle School effective July 1, 2019.
Motion.
And can I have a unanimous second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Congratulations, Susan. Welcome to your new position with the school. And not only did your universe come together tonight, but ours did too. So it's a great pleasure to have you achieve this new position. I know, Nilda, you're excited, and it's going to be a great opportunity. And I think, aim with Russ too, is just having the continuity to promote from within is a testament to the district, but also Kathy's efforts in building succession planning with everybody on the administrative staff. So congratulations and welcome to Irving Robbins. Or I should say back to Irving
Welcome
Robbins.
back. Nilda, did you want to?
So I'm so excited to welcome Sue McMahon to IAR. She started her career at IAR, and in many ways she's coming back home. She brings a wealth of knowledge on the social emotional learning component. I think middle schoolers really need that type of support and nurturing, and she certainly offers all of that. She has so much respect for the IAR community. When I first met her, I thought she would walk on water because that's how highly regarded she is in Farmington. She's devoted over 20 years to us, and I'm so happy to see her promoted to leadership. And I'm glad to have her as a partner at IAR. Welcome.
Yep.
Yes, we need a picture.
All right.
Congratulations.
All right.
Congratulations.
Great job. Congratulations.
She's going to want to copy it.
Oh, yeah. Send them out.
Back to the more mundane.
Yes, yes. Then we go back to our
Now
Yeah.
you're on.
I know now.
I know,
All right.
we're
Excellent.
on.
Okay.
Violet and-
All right. Now we're on engage learning.
I know.
Right? Yeah. We'll go back. 5E. So okay.
All right.
Yep.
But we have to make an extra motion that none of us want to make.
Oh, geez, that's right.
Pressure's on.
Pressure's on.
Pressure is on.
Multi-compete claim I got to deal with tomorrow morning. I need my brain intact.
Okay, returning to the agenda. Next item on the agenda, 5E, Engage Learning Update.
So we have several wonderful updates. Union Playground expansion. So you may remember that the PTO was working on fundraising. They did put in swings after getting student input. So the PTO sponsored those, and so we're excited to see that playground expansion at Union. West District Principal of the Day. There's some great photos of the Principal of the Day at West District, and also West District did Autism Awareness Day. You'll see T-shirts and a really beautiful bulletin board display at West District for this whole month. Westwood Northern Regional Music Festival. We had 26 musicians from Westwoods. They were all accepted into the festival in the areas of chorus, orchestra, and band. East Farm highlighted a weather unit with a focus on innovation and design, and those are first graders doing their weather unit. Noah Wallace highlighted tree exploration as part of the Our Beautiful Earth unit in kindergarten. So you can see the new science inquiry units being implemented. FHS Science Olympiad competed at UConn, did very well in that competition, and IAR last week had over 65 visitors, educators from across Connecticut through the League of Innovative Schools. They went on a rounds visit, and there are lots of positive feedback that the faculty was given after that rounds visit, and it's included in the Engage Learning update. So lots of exciting things going on.
As always.
As always,
As always,
yes.
lots of exciting things. Any questions for Kathy on anything in the learning update? Okay, next item on the agenda, 5F, professional appointments, retirements, resignations, there being none. Next item, item 6, unfinished business, impact budget update. Vince?
Just before we have Vince talk a little bit about that, I want to talk a little bit about Vince because this week, Vince, or last week actually, Vince accepted an exciting position as the executive director of the Flanders Nature Center and Land Trust, and that will be effective July 1, 2019. And I want to extend, my personal and professional congratulations. The school district is so appreciative of Vince for his 15 years of unwavering dedication and service to the Farmington Public Schools. He has been an outstanding leader, contributor, and friend throughout his time in Farmington, and he has made a true impact on our school district, and that will endure for many years to come, and we just wish him all the very best in his future endeavors. So thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
And you're here with us until June 30th.
Yes, yeah, thanks a lot, Kathy. So on the budget impact and budget update, I have the same drivers that we've been talking about through the whole year. Evaluations, consultations, nursing services, special ed nursing services specifically, in-town transportation, out-of-town transportation for special ed. All are the pressures, if you will, on this year's budget. But I certainly would say to you, though, the greatest pressure on the Farmington Public Schools budget is the facility at Farmington High School. This facility has cost the board and this town a lot of extra dollars over this past fiscal year, over the past couple of years, frankly. So the first part of the emergency repairs was completed section. There's 2 other sections that have to have emergency repairs done on the roofs. So we're about a third of the way through that work. And Tim Harris is actively working pretty much every week right now with the contractors on doing those roof repairs. So that's definitely the biggest driver on the board's budget.
Vince, do we know that, or do we have any feedback on the emergency repairs that we're doing at the high school? Are they effective? Are they sticking?
Well, the roof repairs that Tim Harris is doing are basically putting it into the same state if we were going to be redoing the roof in the areas that he has to do. So it's, to answer your question, where we are working is effective. But the challenge is there's a lot of roof at Farmington High School, and it's just inevitable for other areas to have problems.
Any additional? Liz?
Have any new areas come up that need, is there any additional money being spent other than the last time that Tim talked to us? I think he told us we were at Union School at that meeting when he gave us the cost. Has there been any additional money?
No additional.
No, we're just talking about that.
No additional to that, but I think that
Additional in other ways.
Yeah, in the sense that Tim is constantly trying to stay ahead of this this issue. So the 3 specific areas he's working on, plugging away at those. But I'm just trying to point out that it's just inevitable that you're going to have another area that's going to have problems at the high school. I'm talking about the roofs specifically right now.
No, I know. I just know that the last time he gave us a dollar number, and
we're still at that number.
We're still at that number.
Right.
Okay, so, okay.
But there are other issues that occur.
Well, of course, yeah.
That, whether it's sewers backing up,
Yeah.
we've had some real challenges here, and we continue to have challenges here.
Can we get updates on the dollar amounts?
Sure.
Because
We've
I
been
think-
keeping track of that because I think that's important information for you, for the building committee. I think we've done updates in the past, and we can, do another update.
Yeah, I
to
think it would
provide
be
that.
good to see what the dollar amounts as they add up
Yes.
are for unforeseen emergency building repairs. Thank you.
I do want to just say a couple more words, talking about building things, not focused at the high school, though, about the capital projects. The Millennium Builders was the contractor that's been selected to do the projects at security vestibules at Westwoods, IAR, Union, and the security vestibule and main office move at West District. So that contractor has been hired and already is doing submittals and are scheduled to begin right after school gets out, literally the day after school gets out. So Quisenberry Arcari, our architect, is working closely with Millennium Builders now. The roof projects that I had mentioned at the last board meeting, they still stay in the review stage at the State of Connecticut's Department of School Construction Administration. That's where those projects are in the review stage.
And we're in a holding pattern
Yeah,
until
holding pattern.
that point
I
that they're out of
I have
review.
no update. I'm waiting for the state to review.
So potentially, Vince, that could hold us back from starting
Absolutely.
on time
Yeah,
and
yeah.
push us to a point. So it's definitely something that we're keeping. I know Vince has been keeping in close contact with DAS
Yes.
throughout this process, and it's been in that review stage for quite some time.
Yep. It comes to a certain point, and then there's going to be too little time for doing bids and, being.
Because
and
we
doing
just
it
have a
in
certain amount of time
And doing it
in
in
the
a
summer.
thoughtful way.
Mhm.
We're going to do our best here, but we're waiting for the state to finish their review.
Mhm.
And last one is the Westwood's Playground Working Group. The survey was complete. It was actually sent to Alicia Bowman and myself yesterday. And now that the survey has been done over at the Westwood site for where the playground expansion is going to happen, the next thing is the site design. The same group is doing the site design. They're getting some information from Brian Zerio, who is heading up the subcommittee that's looking at the playground equipment that's going to be installed. So the engineers want to see the actual pieces of equipment. They're going to put them onto the site design, and then the working group is going to agree or disagree with the placement of that new equipment. So I just want to say that that's progressing. And that's what I have.
Okay, any additional questions for Vince? Okay, thank you, Vince. And while you're hot, item 8A, consideration of the business administrator's report. Can I have a motion? Well, I'll have a motion to approve the financial report dated March 1, 2019.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, Vince?
Yeah, I think that it's coming to, we're looking at March right now, and I've recently closed the month of April. And it's not going to be too much change, too, when the board sees the next financials as well. But I won't repeat myself. It's those drivers, when you go through and see where the negatives are. The area that I really stay focused on, and Kathy knows this because she's very engaged with Dr. Singer and us when we're discussing it, is on evaluations consultations. And as Dr. Singer said before the board earlier this year, we've had more evaluations consultations in this district over the past year, so obviously there's more costs associated with this. So I stay focused on that area. In the grant pages, most of the double asterisks have been removed. We're down to just the large open choice grant, which I believe is going to come in at what we expect. And the excess cost, special education excess cost grant, I believe my expectation is that's going to come in as we expect too. So I don't really think there's going to be any surprises in revenues. In the self-insurance, unfortunately, that trend continues. Where we are experiencing, there has been no change in the trend that I've been discussing with the board since November, December. It is not a good trend. I have a little bit of hope because stop loss has kicked in a couple of cases, but it's the self-insurance fund is not experienced what it's experienced the past couple of years.
Okay. Questions for Vince? Mark? No? Okay. Okay, the motion to approve the financial report dated March 1, 2019, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, next item 9, reported board chair. I guess obviously everybody knows the budget was approved, so thank you again, everybody, for their efforts during that process. I would report in on the building committee. The building committee met once. There's another meeting Thursday. Really, the first meeting was just a place setter meeting to go over logistics and set up some subcommittees. One dealing with professional partners, site evaluation, financial, and communication. So we're just getting going. It was just sort of a initial introductory meeting to sort of set the timeframe schedules and the subcommittees. And the subcommittees will be meeting, but there's really nothing substantive to report at this point in time on that. So that's kind of where we stand with that. With probably more to report in after the next meeting on Thursday.
Wednesday.
Is it Wednesday, the 8th? Yeah. Okay, that's right. Thank you.
So don't show up on Thursday.
Yeah, yeah, I know. No, my site committee one's on
So
Thursday.
go Wednesday now.
No, my site committee one's on Thursday. Next item is item 10, consideration of the committee reports, personnel negotiations. Mark?
We had our first initial meeting to, I guess, go over logistics as well. We met with Tom Mooney and Vince and Kathy and Chris and Andrea. We were all there, and I guess we have the next meeting that's coming up is probably going to be sometime over the next month, but we don't have a firm date. That'll be to meet with the town to discuss the financial aspects going into negotiations, and then dates are being set for over the summer right now, working through everybody's vacation schedules. So Nicole is kind of trying to figure everything out at this point in terms of when people are available. Sounds like we'll have a lot going on in August, and that's about it for right now. So.
I think Nicole said to me earlier, Mark, today, that I think it's going to fall in very much in line the same way the last negotiations were.
Yeah.
So you're right, mostly in March is the way her scheduling is looking like it's coming out. I'm sorry, August.
August, yeah.
Thank you.
We're having calendar issues tonight.
It sounds like
August.
things will happen pretty
Catchy.
fast.
Yeah.
You know, it'll be quiet and then a big storm, and then hopefully a great resolution.
Okay, thank you. 10B, policy, Christine.
No, nothing to report. Nothing
Okay.
scheduled.
Yeah. 10C, curriculum. No, Michelle, but Kim, anything? Or
No, I think. We met, 2 weeks ago? Yep.
Okay.
Reviewed some of the
Okay.
coming programs.
All right, and then 10D, communications. Ellen?
No report.
I think we're going to meet just to talk about the summer newsletter.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
With everybody?
Yeah.
All right, great, thank you. Next item, report of the committee liaisons. 11A, CREC, me, no report. Focus, Bill. Farmington Public School Foundation, Christine.
They had a meeting a few weeks ago. I was not able to attend, but I know they reviewed their applications, and they had a ton of them this go-round. So I'll be interested to see what comes out of that.
Okay, Interscholastic Athletics Advisory, Christy.
Yeah, the last one isn't until the end of the year, I don't think.
Yeah,
Mm.
after the
Okay.
spring season.
Okay, Chamber of Commerce, Green Efforts, Andrea?
April 27th was the annual townwide cleanup day, and despite the terrible weather, we collected 2,500 pounds, or 1.25 tons of trash. At the last meeting, which was April 2nd, I wasn't at that meeting because we had a board meeting that night, but one of the high school students presented her capstone project on municipal solid waste and analyzed methods and results of reducing solid waste in the home, and she also analyzed solid waste reduction efforts in other regions in Connecticut. And Vince, I think you mentioned something about this at our last meeting, that Noah Wallace is no longer using styrofoam trays, and they are using reusable 6-compartment trays.
And Liz was correct, because I really believe it's going to be all the schools. And that, when it is phased in, it'll be official 1 year. They'll give you 1 year to work towards it.
Right.
But, yep.
I think Jose also mentioned that he's just going to, I don't know. I think we're just going to do it.
Oh, we are?
I think so.
Yeah. Jose's run all his numbers on it?
I'm pretty sure he mentioned that he is just going to do it, which also goes into cafeteria, which is next. Are you finished? Because I could just talk about it in the cafeteria section.
Okay, we'll segue right over to you.
I'm pretty sure that, I don't think he's going to do it this year because we're almost done with the year, but they are piloting it in Noah Wallace, and it is a law that's going to go into effect or it did go into effect. It's going to start in Connecticut. I don't think it's in effect now, but it'll go into effect October 1st, I think, where the styrofoam trays are banned anyway. So Jose just stopped me in the hallway and said that he ran the numbers, and it's inconsequential for the price. So I think he felt comfortable just doing it in all of the schools anyway, and he's going to have to anyway because the law changed. So that's good. We're probably going to find out about that at our next cafeteria meeting, which is on May 20th before the board meeting. It's at West District, right? The next
Correct.
one? Yeah.
Yes.
So that's where the cafeteria meeting's going to be, I'm assuming? Yeah, I forgot to write down where it is, but it's usually right before the board meeting. Yeah. So at West District at 6 o'clock, so that's where our cafeteria advisory committee meeting will be. But that's good.
Yep.
A lot of these more environmentally friendly things are becoming less costly. Like they're almost the same cost point
And
as what we're doing now.
Right.
So, I mean, that's what Jose is finding out.
Yep. We'll have 2 cafeteria items on the next board's agenda, the renewal of the Chartwell's extension of Chartwell's contract and the Healthy Foods extension.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I don't know if this is a question for Liz for cafeteria or Andrea for green efforts, but is there any discussion about water bottles in the district? I mean, we have those really nice fountains.
Water fill
that you can
stations, yeah.
fill. Is there any water bottle discussion?
What do you mean?
You mean,
Getting rid of them.
Not using these kind of.
not using these? Yeah, well, we
Yes,
shouldn't.
We all have one in
yeah.
front of us.
I know.
I mean, no, but we could talk about that at cafeteria.
Because we were getting our water in a, in a glass container
Yeah, we
for a
can,
while.
we can
Right.
definitely follow up because Jose was doing that, so we
Right.
can follow up. I will say that the water fountains have made a huge impact because students bring their own.
Right.
They fill up
I was gonna
at
say at the
those.
school.
So it's made a tremendous impact. And I think some of them actually show like how many,
Ounces.
right, like how many bottles of water, by doing it, through the water fountain. So, I definitely think it's made a difference, but it would be great for our meetings, and we can follow up with Jose. Great suggestion.
Okay. Anything else for Liz or Andrea? Okay, next item, H, health and wellness. Ellen?
We had a meeting last week, but it was a preview to Ed's presentation tonight.
Okay. All right, next item 12, executive session. Can I have a motion to go into executive session?
Motion?
Second?
All in favor? Aye. We're in session. All right, back in session. If I can first have a motion to continue the meeting past 10 o'clock.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? All right, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned.